let's move on to Mamdani, okay? This guy, everything's coming out about him now. And it does seem that in addition to being a genuinely terrible person, Andrew Cuomo had the absolute worst research team in politics. Why are we learning about all this stuff, guys, now, after the guy already won the nomination? Andrew?
Well, yeah, we talked about this on our show. Andrew Cuomo ran one of the quintessentially worst campaigns you could possibly run. It was bad on every level, including, as you point out, the Oppo research on who would end up, winning the nomination in this weird, five-way sort of, race that they ran up there where you count the votes, proportionally and all that sort of stuff. So, I think what's interesting about Mamdani is that he is a old school socialist, and he's sort of bringing that idea of socialism back from this sort of cultural socialism that we've seen in recent years that were sort of all based around sort of interest groups and identity politics, back to sort of, the roots of socialism, which are, and he's talked about controlling the means of production, which is a phrase that, you haven't heard that in America since the 60s, right? I mean, that's old school. That's what Bernie Sanders talked about before he sort of, became a cultural Marxist himself.
And he tweeted from each according to his ability to those according to their means. That's the Karl Marx quote. I don't have it quite right.
According to their needs, yes. So I mean, this, and to me, and this goes back to our previous discussion about who's going to end up with the Democratic nomination, all the energy in the Democratic Party, I think, is on the left. I think this sort of feint to the sort of right or the center is over. I think they're going full in on democratic socialism, small d, in parens, in quotes, democratic socialism. And Mamdani is the sort of vector of this for the moment. He's very popular among young people. People do not remember what socialism really is. They have no conception of, how it's failed every time it's been tried. But for some reason it's back, and he's the guy. And, like I say, I think what's interesting about him is this idea that he is going back to the roots of socialism and getting away from this sort of identity politics part of it, and it's really class-based.
Well, he does both. He does both, Andy. He's the whole package. He does all of the virtue signaling and all the Islamic stuff and the old-fashioned Marxist-Leninism. I mean, it's weird. And Andrew Cuomo, how much of this did he mention in the campaign, Megyn? You live up there. Not much, huh?
None. No, because you know what, Carl, what I realized too late, I mean, I wasn't paying that close attention, but I think Andrew Cuomo was really hamstrung by his many scandals. He's a shadow of his former self. He's scared. He wasn't bold. He didn't take big risks. He didn't swing big. He just thought he'd skulk along as a Cuomo. He's nothing like his father. He keeps thinking we're going to think he's Mario Cuomo, who was legitimately very popular in New York, where I lived my whole life. And it didn't work. People knew he's a weird, perverted guy who tried to blame his weird sex pest stuff on being an Italian. What the F? And killed a bunch of senior citizens in New York State with his order, which he was told was going to kill them, that COVID-positive patients had to be allowed back into the nursing homes and weren't allowed to be tested for it. And wrote his memoir on the taxpayer's dime. He got $5 million for it using staffers I was paying for as a New York State taxpayer. Overreached mightily on COVID. We had a dinner party at our house during COVID. I was living in Manhattan, where I got those little signs of Andrew Cuomo's head, looking up, and I put him in all the windows. Because he was literally staring you down. He was chastising you. People hate Andrew Cuomo. And I think he was afraid. He just thought he could skulk in with the Cuomo name. And he took big swings, and only now are we learning the stuff.
Well, we've been talking on our show. Is there any chance Eric Adams benefits from this, and that New Yorkers wake up and say, okay, I don't really want a hardcore Marxist who wasn't born in this country but hates this country, even though this country's been so good to him and his family. This guy's too much for me. Maybe Eric Adams is not as bad as I thought he was. Maybe I can live another 4 years with Eric Adams. What's the vibe up there? The polls don't show it yet, but what do you sense?
I mean, I think he's going to win. I think Mamdani is going to win. There's no one, not Eric Adams, not Cuomo, not Curtis Lewa. You can't get anybody else on the ballot who's got his energy and his weird, like, snake oil salesman vibe of, like, whatever you want, you can have it. I'll get it for you. I'm going to lower all the rents. I'm going to ruin all the billionaires, but I'm also going to tax the billionaires into oblivion to pay for all my wonderful things like free buses. And we're going to become socialist, and we are going to take from the people with means and give to people according to their needs. It's going to be our new utopia. We're going to have public housing right in the middle of Central Park. And that's definitely not going to affect quality of life at all for the millionaires and others who live on the park and enjoy it. Don't worry. We're not going to cooperate with ICE, so we're going to increase the magnet effect that this city has on illegals who want to come here. We're going to put them up in the hotels, again, on those billionaires' dollars who are going to leave New York because they won't be taxed this way. He's a snake oil salesman, but he's got all the charm of one, too. And I think New Yorkers who aren't paying that much attention and young people who aren't doing that well, and they don't, it's never easy for young people in big cities. Ask any young person in Chicago, in New York, in Boston, in San Fran, in LA. They're exorbitantly expensive. We all went through it. This is not the first generation to experience that. You know what we did? We got roommates. We lived cheaply, or we lived right on the outer part of the city. We didn't run around complaining that the country needs to be socialist or communist and start voting in left-wing loons like this guy. But I think he's going to win. And here's one other thing for you. David Patterson, the former governor of New York, puts out this long paper statement like, what we really need is for the party to come together now, he's Democrat, and like select the right leader before the vote. And I have to hand it to Crystal Ball, who I love, but I don't agree with her politics and she doesn't agree with mine, which is fine. I still like her. And she tweeted out, this is bonkers. This guy says New York City Democrats need to come together and decide to support whichever candidate has the most support among them. That's a quote. They did this. It was called the Democratic primary. And this guy, Zohran Mamdani, won it. And it wasn't even particularly close. Their goose is cooked, Tom Bevan.
I think I agree with you. And, you know, what's interesting is watching. So the story that came over the weekend that Mamdani had checked the box African-American on his application to Columbia.
The race box. Be sure you say that, because it wasn't what's your national origin. It was what is your race. Go ahead and explain it, because we haven't talked about it with our audience yet.
Yeah, well, no. But the leak went to the New York Times. So that just tells you there are forces inside the Democratic Party, the establishment. There's folks on Wall Street. They're all freaking out right now because they've basically sort of enabled this monster, and now they can't stop him. I think he's going to win because I don't think there's going to be enough support. But they are going to try and take him down. And as you said, like the Oppo stuff that Cuomo should have been able to find is all coming out, and it's going to be a steady drumbeat of that all the way through the election. But I don't know that it's going to be enough to slow him down. He is a charismatic guy. He's giving away free goodies to everybody. He says he's going to, it's the richest fault for the plight of young people and folks in the city that can't afford it. And so it's the sort of standard playbook, and it's not just socialism, it's communism. I mean, seizing the means of production. It's true communism. It is true communism.
It's seizing the means of production. He said he wants to do that.
I know. So, I mean, he's literally a textbook communist. He says he's a socialist. He's actually a communist. And, Sean McGuire, who's a venture capitalist out in Silicon Valley, I don't know if you heard about this. So he tweeted out over the weekend. He actually said, look, I believe he's an Islamist. And of course, he caught all sorts of hell for that. A bunch of people have signed a letter trying to get him fired. He went online and published a 28-minute video trying to explain in rational terms why he thinks that Mamdani is not just a socialist, he's a communist, but also an Islamist. And there was a story in the New York Post the other day, an editorial, talking about it's not just him, it's the people that he's going to bring in to run the city. Jamal Bowman, remember him? Mr. Fire Escape, yes. Fire alarm.
That loon
might actually be the head of schools, and this councilwoman from Queens who's like anti-police might actually be in charge of the security and the police department. It means it's going to be a collection of really left-wing radicals who are going to be implementing his policies all across that city, and that's why a lot of people are worried. Even some Democrats are worried that if he gets elected, he's going to destroy the city.
Thank God we left. Thank God. Thank God. Lord, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We left after our, the schools went totally crazy and it became too much for us. But on the heels, like as we were looking, where can we move where we can still be in the Northeast and like with all of our people, they announced that they were defunding the cops by $1 billion. And I really thought it was a sign from God. It was God just saying, just in case you were worried you weren't making the right decision. This guy tries to claim now he's not for defunding the police. It's all, he tweeted it, defund the police. And when somebody said, when we say defund the police, we don't really mean defund the police. We mean reallocate money to like more social services who can intervene earlier. And he responded, no, we mean defund the police. Like, okay. The race thing is too delicious to not spend another minute on. I love this story so much. So somebody hacked the Columbia University applications department, computer files, and they discovered his application back when he was a high school senior in 2009. He was born in Uganda. He's Indian, all right? In the same way Elon Musk was born in Africa, but is white, Zohran Mamdani was born in Africa, but is Indian, okay? That's what's real. If a white person is born in Africa, it does not make them African American or black when it comes to race. You want it at national origin? Sure, you could say Africa, like Elon can, like Charlize Theron can say. You cannot say your race is black or African American. Everyone knows what that means. We're talking about skin color and a certain background that might entitle you to an extra feather in your cap on the application process, because before the Supreme Court ruling, there used to be allowed to account for that in a way that would give somebody a leg up. He checked the box when asked to identify his race. And he checked the box that read black or African American, and also checked the box that read Asian, which just shows he is el stupido, because only one of those boxes gets you into college. The other one gets you not into college. They don't like Asians. This is the racism of the left. They like brown, but not if you're not brown enough. Asian, not like Indian, no, it's a no. That won't really help you. God forbid Asian, that's a no altogether. So he didn't have it quite figured out. And his dad was a professor there. And then he also told them that, thinking it would help them. But obviously that also telegraphed that he was the son of a college professor, and that they lived in a nice little Tony area, and his mother was well educated as well. And it was very clear. But he comes out to say this. In an interview with the Times, he said he did not consider himself black or African American, but rather an American who was born in Africa. By the way, he wasn't an American even when he checked that. His answers on the college application were, quote, an attempt to represent his complex background, given the limited choices before him, not to gain an upper hand in the admission process. A lie! A lie! This is what I have to say to that.
Sure, Jan.
100% he was checking it to get in, and he still didn't get in.
And he didn't get in, and his dad's a professor there. I mean, ugh.
Yes. And now you've got all these leftists who, if Megyn Kelly ever checked the box, even if I were born in Uganda, of being black or African American, would have my head on a platter. They're running. He's no more black than I am just because he's Asian. Are running to defend him and attack the New York Times as having done something wrong, Tom. They're mad at the Times.
Yes. And saying basically, well, I think it was Nicole Hannah-Jones, the author of the 1619 Project, tweeted something that said, well, we know who's culturally black and who isn't, and there's a difference. And we
Clarence
should all...
Thomas, you're out. You're out.
Yeah. Yeah. So look, this is going to be fascinating to watch this whole thing play out, because there will be other instances and more coming down the line where you'll have, I think, folks that'll be, going out of their way, bending over backwards to defend this guy. When, he's a very privileged guy. I mean, as you mentioned, dad's a professor, mom's like a famous, movie producer?
Director or producer, yeah.
Movie director, yeah. Grew up in a very Tony neighborhood. I mean, this guy is, he's about as privileged as you could possibly be. And he is very charismatic, but he's selling this sort of bill of goods to the people of New York that he's for the, the downtrodden, and he's going to make this, create this socialist utopia. It's going to be amazing to watch.
It's like the number of people coming out to defend him. Like, okay, here's Mehdi Hassan. He writes, everyone should be making noise about this huge media scandal in the New York Times. While Trump makes money off of frivolous lawsuits against CBS, ABC, etc., the Times is getting away with an anti-Mamdani hit job fed to them by a far-right race science guy who they kept anonymous. Who cares, Andrew, where they got the story? No one, including Mamdani, is claiming it's untrue.
Yeah, no, there's been no pushback on the actual facts of the case. But first of all, the vanguard of the proletariat comes from the elite. I mean, we know that from Lenin. We know that. So he's in a very solid tradition of the leftists. It's never truly a man of the people that comes up and runs the revolution, because the proletariat are not capable of doing that. So that's why you need people like Mamdani who understand the theory and everything and can actually make it happen. So in that regard, he fits into he's a textbook leftist in that regard. But the other thing that I think is interesting about this right now is what it says about how New York might have changed, because there's 2 million Jews in New York City. There are 800,000 Muslims now, which sort of shocked me. That's a bigger number than I would have expected.
That's a big old number.
Yeah, so the city is really changed, and he does, in terms of sort of, if you think of the ethnic makeup of New York and how, ethnics rise in politics, he fits that model in a way that's interesting. And to your point originally, Megyn, I think he has a pretty good chance of pulling this off, even with all the little stuff that's going to come out about his background and stuff.
By the way, his wife
he
also
may be
lies.
The man for the moment. I'm sorry?
I think sadly he is, but his wife also lies. Her name is Rama Duwaji, and she says on her Instagram bio that she is, quote, from Damascus. She's from Texas.
Well, the
is there
weather's
a
similar.
Damascus, Texas? I don't think so. Both of these two are like,
that's a great name. Yeah.
Yeah, they're just cosplayers.
What I don't understand about this fixation, not just with this guy, but all these young Gen Zers who think they like socialism, it's not like socialism disappeared off the face of the earth. Venezuela tried it, and it wrecked their economy. And it wrecked their economy so much that the Biden administration gave 500,000 visas to Venezuelans to come to the United States because their economy was wrecked by socialism. And there's this disconnect between the facts of the real world and this rhetoric. I guess, I don't know who you blame, the press, the public school system, maybe, Gen Z, I don't know, Instagram. I don't know who you blame for this, but
you know what, Carl?
But this should be right there. It's right there in front of us, right?
It's no surprise because you guys know. So you're from San Francisco and Tom's from Chicago. Where are you from, Andy?
Well, originally I'm from outside New York City.
Okay, and you're from New York, and I've spent the last 17 years in New York. It's these blue cities that are being run into the ground. We're now, instead of recognizing it's democratic rule that has ruined these crown jewels of America, they're like, we got to try communism. And on top of that, they're like, you need communism to fight fascism. There's fascism now in the White House, only that's not real. But the communism it is real. Like, this guy is an actual communist. It's worse than socialism, you're right. And there's no pause to realize how your city and your life got this way. It is bad. They're not wrong. There is an affordability crisis for sure. Part of it is just you're young and you chose a very expensive place to live. But a lot of these cities have been run into the ground, like Chicago. I mean, there's no better example of it. I mean, San Francisco's coming back now because they hit rock bottom, I think. And now they're starting to realize you have to moderate or the city's going to just flush down the toilet into the ocean. And Chicago, I mean, what does Brandon Johnson have, an 11% approval rating, Tom? Even the left-wing Chicagoans are realizing he's a disaster.
I think it might be lower than that, actually.
Wow.
It's in 7%.
I mean, at least in New York, you guys have had Republican mayors. I mean, you had Giuliani, you had Bloomberg, who was, Republican, then an independent. Chicago hasn't had a Republican mayor in 100 years. And Republicans have no control over any of the levers of government, not just at the municipal level, but at the state level as well. And we had Lori Light. I mean, if you had told me, Megyn, 4 years ago that Chicagoans would be pining for the days of Lori Lightfoot, which they are now, I would have said you're crazy. But so there is no moderation. There's just this constant march to the left. And there are no alternatives. I mean, even the sane Democrat who ran this last time around, Paul Vallas, could not overcome the teachers' unions, could not overcome the sort of system that was put in place. And now you have a situation where you've got a mayor, as I said, with like 6% approval rating or something. And but he might win re-election.
Since President Trump was sworn in, his administration has made enormous progress at a breakneck pace. But don't forget, while they're moving mountains for the good of the nation, you've got your own personal savings to worry about. And one of the best ways to look after your savings is through diversification, particularly with gold, like from Birch Gold Group. In the past 12 months, the value of gold has increased by 40%. OMG. Central banks continue to bolster demand for gold by buying in record quantities. Global instability and tension is high, and Birch Gold makes owning physical gold extremely easy. Easily convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold, or buy some to store in your home safe. Just text MK to the number 989898 and Birch Gold will send you a free info kit on gold. There's no obligation, just useful information. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers, take control of your savings today. Text MK to the number 989898. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.